Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Holy crap, you're right. This is like baby food.
Yeah. I was just saying like the consistency of this stuff. It's like the same as what I feed my daughter.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah, Jinmai Shirakawa go Nigorizake, so.
yeah, it's good.
It's good.
It's
good.
It's very different from what we normally drink.
Yeah.
But
I like it. So one thing I like about Nigorizake is it almost has like a toasty feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. It's I don't know. It kind of, I mean, it doesn't taste like eggnog at all, but like
it feels like that.
It kind of like when I think of like wintry drinks, you think of like a thicker, heavier drink.
Yeah.
You know? And this definitely kind of fits that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? This is a very, like, even if you pick up the bottle, like, it's pretty heavy. It's very dense.
It's very hefty. Look at this. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of drinks for the holiday, we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite drink of the holiday, which is beer.
I was going to say spiced wine. But,
yeah, that's the real holiday thing.
I like hot wine. We have entered hot wine season.
We have.
If you go to
cold
Caldi,
now.
you get the 2 for 1 for 1,000 yen.
Yeah.
You'll get the Shiro wine, the Aka wine.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love hot wine.
Yeah. That was mainly just a joke. We were going to talk about beer beforehand, so.
We're not here to talk about wine. Let's talk about beer. So first of all, the most controversial thing we've ever talked about on the channel.
Yeah.
Let's talk about beer rankings for Japanese beer.
Sure.
Like just like the regular beers. Okay.
Rankings.
So going back to the rankings, I want to talk about beer rankings here.
Yeah.
Because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day about this, and they're asking me like, because we were having an argument because, once again, this is a very controversial opinion. I don't like Asahi Super Dry.
Oh, come on, man. We're speaking English, so you don't say Asahi.
Asahi?
Asahi, man.
Asahi. Yeah, it's right. People do pronounce it Asahi.
It's like
the heathens.
One thing that is just about the name thing. So like whenever you go to like a sushi restaurant or a Japanese restaurant, or even a Chinese restaurant in America, everyone always gets a Sapporo. And those
Sapporo, take a Sapporo, bro.
And those big aluminum cans, those silver cans, which I've never found here. Have you ever seen them here?
I can't say I have.
Yeah, they're like a jokey sized glass or whatever, but it's just a beer can.
I mean, I feel like it's like the same reason why, like, if you want a Calpis, you can just get a Calpis here. But if you go to the US, you will never find something that just says Calpis. It'll always say in big blocky letters Calpis water.
Oh yeah.
And here in Japan, I think maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I think the label changed and now it says water and katakana, but it's like still small lettering.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, beer rankings.
Beer rankings. So
not Asahi.
I am not a fan of Asahi. So if I were, like I said, controversial opinion, if I were to rank it all the way at the top, it's like right here is Ebisu beer. I love Ebisu beer. It's really good. Okay. Slightly below that.
I'm just listening to you. I'm just listening.
Slightly below that is Sapporo. I love Sapporo beer. I think Ebisu and Sapporo beer are very.
Yeah, dude, you have a Sapporo shirt you wear on this
all the
channel
time.
A lot. Yeah,
all the time. I'm a huge supporter of Sapporo. I wouldn't say I'm a beer connoisseur, but I'm a beer snob.
Yeah,
being from the West Coast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We should talk a little bit about beer culture in the States because it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say, as somebody who, like, I really don't like drinking bad beers.
Yeah.
I like these beers. They taste very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Below that, we go to Asahi.
Okay.
Right. This
Ebisu,
is like
Sapporo.
Oh, sorry.
Asahi.
I apologize. I forgot one. Kirin.
Okay.
Kirin. So it's like you have the holy trinity of normal beers.
Ebisu, Sapporo, Kirin are the holy trinity. Okay.
Yeah. So like Kirin's right here.
Yeah.
And then that is like the cutoff for what I would say beers that I think are good beers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then below that is Asahi, which almost makes it into the beer, like good beers, but I don't like it.
Okay.
And then way down below, I really, really don't like premium malts.
So you have to explain that to me. Why don't you like premium malts so much?
I'll tell you the reason why I don't like premium malts is it tastes like a cheap beer to me.
Yeah, but what about it makes it taste
Although
cheap to you?
what about it? It's got like a very strong, like, I'm trying to describe what I think a cheap beer tastes like.
Yeah.
But it's like I'll tell you what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
And that'll maybe help you
Okay.
understand what I'm talking about. It tastes like a Coors.
So Coors for me just tastes stale.
Yes. Well, if that's what a stale beer tastes like, that's what it tastes like to me.
You know, it's funny though you mentioned that, because so back when I was a college student 10 years ago, my parents came and visited me, and they'd just come from the airport. My mom was super hungry, super thirsty.
Yeah.
We end up going to like an izakaya in Shibuya, right? And they bring out the puremoru, the premium malts, and the frozen glasses, so they're like frosted and everything.
Okay.
And that was like her first beer after landing in Japan. Yeah. And it was like a godsend. She's like, this is just amazing. It's like she was drinking the elixir of life or something like that. And then after that, my dad was like, oh, dude, Arthur, I love premium malts. I love premium malts. And then Natsumi's mom is an Asahi person. She always drinks Asahi all the time.
Yeah.
And they just 6 months ago, no, not 6 months ago, like 3 months ago, my dad was here. And Natsumi's parents
was it
came.
Really that long ago already?
Yeah, it was crazy. A long time ago. And then Natsumi's parents were here too. They only overlapped for like one day.
Yeah.
But he was drinking Asahi with Natsumi's mom. He's like, you know, Arthur, I think I like Asahi more than premium malts. And I was like, yeah, I understand that, because for me, like when you talk about premium malts, you have premium malts in the shop. You have premium malts in the can. I don't like the can at all. And so like what you're talking about, the cheap tasting stuff is like the can. I feel like the reason I like premium malts like from like draft is because it feels creamier to me than the other beers.
You know, in the defense of premium malts, I will say I've never had it draft.
Okay.
Every time I drink it, it's from the can. And every time I drink it, I'm like, this tastes terrible. Why did I buy this beer?
Yeah.
A couple of honorable mentions that I also want to talk about is Orion beer.
Orion beer?
From Okinawa. Yeah. I think I like the beer, but I once again, controversial. Yeah. I just don't like consider it like one of the regular beers here.
Isn't Orion owned by Asahi or something like that?
Is it?
I think it is. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Also, I want to hear everyone's favorite Japanese beer. So please let us know which ha. Are you Asahi ha? Are you Premor ha?
Yeah.
Are you Kirin ha? Let us know.
Specifically, like talking about like the regular beers. Yeah. Because like, you know, I think pretty much everyone would agree that like the craft beers are just better than everything, right? Right. Because it's like, you know, they're nicer, higher quality beer.
And they cost more too.
They also cost more.
Yeah. Although I will tell you, like the thing that I miss is, you know, we were talking about this before over lunch, is like, you know, in the States, you can get the really, really cheap college beers like PBR or like Bud Light or something, and they're super cheap. Whereas here, everything is like $3 a can. Yeah,
it's really hard to find cheap beer here. Yeah. But I will say, the one place that you always find cheap beer is like the dedicated liquor stores.
Yeah.
And you won't find cheap cans, but what you'll find is like the nomikai bottles.
Oh, the nomikai bottles.
You know what I'm talking about? There's like the bottles that are this big, and usually those are selling for like 300 yen.
Oh, really?
Or like somewhere around there, right?
You know, it's funny though you mentioned that, because so like Suntory has premium malts, right? But then they just have the malts. Yeah. Which is always in those bottles, right?
Yeah.
So like, I never see premium malts in there. It's always the malts. I was like, oh, okay. But so we're going to be talking about regular beer here and regular beer culture, whatever. But what's your favorite beer in Japan, including craft beers? Anything here?
Ooh, okay. So we're assuming this is craft beer made in Japan.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. So it's all...
Okay. Because I mean, I was just going to answer Guinness.
Yeah. Guinness is...
Guinness is not
Japanese.
Yeah. Okay. My favorite beer... Oh, that's a really hard decision. I really like Yona.
Yeah, me too.
Yona is like a really, really tasty beer. I don't know if you've ever... This is actually kind of expensive and you don't see it often outside of Shonan, but have you ever had Kamakura beer?
I have had Kamakura beer.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive, but it's like a really good tasting beer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like what else would I consider Yeah, I think I would say like Yona Yona's
Okay.
like my number one,
Okay.
like as far as like craft beer. But I think still my absolute favorite, like out of craft beers, out of the regular, is probably Ebisu.
Okay. Okay.
Like I consider Ebisu kind of a craft beer.
So what is it about Ebisu that you like so much?
There's so much flavor in it.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next time, dude, we're gonna have to do a taste test because
Dude, let's just bring in the cans and let's do a blind taste test.
a blind taste test.
A blind taste test.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Yeah. Because I'd be curious if I think Ebisu beer is the only beer on that list that you would definitely be 100% able to tell the difference between.
Okay.
I think every other beer, if you drank it in a blind taste test, it could be a little bit ambiguous.
Dude, we should have had beer instead of this, man.
Next time.
Next time.
We'll do a blind taste test.
So we talked a little bit about the beer and stuff, but what do you feel like is the difference between beer culture in Japan versus the United States? Well, you can say West Coast. I'll talk about East Coast.
Sure. I think well, there's the situations that we drink beer, I feel like are a little bit different.
Mhm.
Obviously there's nobody really drinking beer outside in public areas in the US because it's very illegal.
Yes,
you can be arrested for it.
Yeah.
Whereas in Japan, I frequently crack a beer open on the train.
Yeah.
Before people crucify me, it's usually in the green car.
In the green cars, yeah.
Yeah, I usually sit down and crack a beer open. I'm not cracking a beer open.
You're not a beast.
But yeah, it's like I drink on the train almost every day.
Yeah.
Just like one beer on the way home or something. I think I would say the beer culture here in Japan's a lot more similar to Europe.
Okay.
Than it is to the US, because like the US is like people, I mean, I'm generalizing here, but people don't normally just drink beer for no reason.
Yeah.
Whereas in Japan, I feel like you do.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's break that down a little bit because that might be a West Coast thing. Now I think about it. So when you say people don't drink beer for no reason, so what makes you say that?
Well, okay. So what I mean by that is like, when you drink beer in the US, at least from my experience, you're like doing something.
Yeah.
You're either hanging out with somebody, you're watching a sports game,
yeah.
You're having a barbecue, you're doing an activity, and while doing that activity, you drink beer.
Yeah. Whereas
here in Japan, I think it's pretty common for like someone to just sit down after the day's done and just crack a beer open.
Okay.
You'll see it often, on the train rides home. It's like, hey, like if I ride the green car, almost everybody has like some form of alcohol that they're drinking on the train. I often see, like if I'm going to lunch, I'll see like some office workers sitting down at a table, just cracking a beer open with their lunch. Stuff like that.
Okay.
Like I think beer is just a lot more casually drank here.
Okay.
Drunk.
Come on, man. No, it's fine. You've been here for a while. I get it. No, it's funny you say that because in my image, like, and what the way I see it is like beer culture here. Yeah, a lot of people drink beer by themselves, like you say. But when I think about beer drinking culture, the first thing I think of is like there's a table with a bunch of people there, and they're all drinking together, like after work, like a nomikai kind of thing.
Definitely.
Whereas,
I mean, yeah. Okay, sorry to cut you off.
But like in the States, I feel like people, I mean, in America, you have the same thing as like nomikai. You get drinks with your colleagues or work buddies afterwards. But I feel like there, it's more you're at a bar and you move around more instead of sitting at your table.
100%. I mean, it's like that's just bar culture is like way different here. I mean, you can find izakaya like that here, but I mean, it's like pretty much any izakaya that you go in, you don't really go to other people's tables and talk to them.
Yeah.
Now I will say that rule gets kind of broken a little bit when you're in an izakaya where you're standing.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just easier to approach. Yeah. We have one right next to my school that I frequently go to with my coworkers.
Well, it's a great way to talk with people. I mean, that's how I socialized when I had time.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have very frequently met just random people in there.
Yeah.
We met like some guys that were like part of like a film crew and like an
cool.
online like a tourist
Yeah.
program for Japan that like
Mhm.
advertised different areas.
Mhm.
We met some businessmen. We met
Mhm.
some like random lady from
Yeah.
Spain
Okay.
who just like joined our group one day.
Okay.
So yeah, you'll have that. But I would say the vast majority of places are very like enclosed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You the traditional izakaya, you go in, all your group
Yeah.
sits down in one area, and then most of the time it's like either its own room or
Yeah.
it's at least closed off to
Yeah.
the rest of the izakaya.
Yeah, it's like you just kind of associate in with your group and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Whereas like you said, if it's at a bar, it's much more open. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people would like go to the bar to meet people or hang out or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like shared drinks
Mhm.
are a lot more common here than
Yeah.
you would see in the US.
What
Like
do you mean by shared drinks?
so like, for example, you'll get like a big bottle of
Uh-huh.
beer, right? And then you'll be like pouring out of that for
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
everybody,
for
right?
everyone.
In the US, it's like you'll get like a pitcher of beer in some
Yeah.
places, but like I think that's like when I think of that, I think of like a bowling alley or
Yeah,
like some
yeah, right.
cheap place that's like
Yeah.
you have just some crappy beer and they
Yeah.
just filled up a pitcher and you
Yeah.
know. But if you're going to a bar, it's like
Everyone has
you'll-
their own tab.
You'll never have your own pitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own tab, everyone takes care of their stuff.
Yeah.
One thing though that's kind of so this isn't necessarily about beer and drinking itself. I guess it's more about alcohol, but
Yeah.
kind of like you said, in America it's very illegal to drink outside.
Yeah.
And so like it's funny because when you're in a bar, you can go crazy and you can have a lot of fun, but like outside of the bar there's absolutely no drinking and it's kind of like hush hush a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like I remember I went back to Boston and hung out with a couple of my students in like a food court-esque kind of one of those like food halls. Do you know how they have the food halls here someplace? It was kind of like that in Boston. And when I was leaving at the entrance, at the exit, there was a sign that said, "No alcohol beyond this point."
Yeah.
And like they have to have those up by law because you're not allowed to bring the alcohol outside of the area.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of weird because like, okay, so in the Northwest, do you guys have a slang term for liquor stores?
No.
Okay, so in Boston, like people call them packies.
No.
Like, it comes from package store because
No.
you'd always come out with a package full of alcohol because you always get those brown.
Yeah.
You always get those brown bags, so you can't see what's in it.
So that's like America's such a weird place
Yeah.
because like there's so many like loopholes and everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's one of the things is like in America it's illegal to drink in public,
Yeah.
but as soon as you put a bag around it, it's okay.
Unless a policeman could come over and be like, "Hey, what are you drinking?" But they already know and they don't really care.
Right? And it's like there's like a huge market around like the red Solo cup, the party cup,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And a big part of that is you can't drink in public, but if you pour it in this cup, all of a sudden it's
You
kind
don't
of
know
like,
what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be juice, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not juice because
Yeah.
everybody knows what a red Solo cup,
Yeah.
like the meaning of it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this weird thing, and then it's like you have these really strict laws in America for
Yeah.
being drunk in public.
Yeah.
Like you can get in a lot of trouble. You'll easily get arrested.
Yeah.
Probably have to spend the night in a jail.
Yeah.
You'll get in trouble for
Yeah.
it. And you're allowed to drive after drinking?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're allowed to drive after drink, but you
What?
can't be drunk in public. Yeah. Whereas like in Japan, you get one drink and you're not allowed to
you
drive.
can't even take communion at church and drive.
Really?
That's how strict the rule is in
Wow.
Japan. You cannot, if you're Catholic, you cannot drink the wine at church and then drive.
Honestly though,
Yeah.
I feel like so I think that's a little bit strict too, but no one people here, like a lot of people can't hold their alcohol to save their life, but still like I feel like the rules here make a lot more sense logically.
I mean, at least they're consistent, right?
Yeah.
Like it just the alcohol rules in the US just never made any sense
Yeah.
to me.
Or how liquor stores are closed on Sundays because it's the Lord's Day.
Yeah, it's like what?
Yeah. Although it is better than what it was before because like around the turn of at the end of the 1800s or whatever, people were going full out. What is it? Alcohol leads to brawls. So let's not have any alcohol.
And do you know, so after the alcohol ban, so for people that aren't aware, America went through what's called
Prohibition.
Prohibition. That's what it's called. Where alcohol was completely banned for like was it like 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years. It was around 10
right?
years.
But it like wasn't really banned. It was just you just had to hide it.
Yeah.
Right? And so like people were trying like all these creative ways to get alcohol, and so like one of the most common ways was taking mouthwash and making alcohol from that.
From mouthwash.
Wow. Which is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
Because there's a very high alcohol content in that mouthwash. Yeah. And so the mouthwash company was like, dude, this is not looking good. People are kind of dying from this. Yeah. So we're just going to start poisoning it to make you sick.
Really?
When you drink it. So that's why you get sick if you drink mouthwash.
Really?
Now. It was to prevent people from making alcohol out of it back in Prohibition.
What?
I
remember I saw on Facebook or somewhere, there was like this there was this package of grape juice, and on it they said, please do not do this to it because then it will become wine.
Yeah.
So they had instructions on how to make it into wine, but they said, please do not do this.
I will never forget. Yeah. I don't know how old I was at this time. I was in high school. I was probably 16 or 17. And I know that I was old enough to have money because I had a part-time job at that point. So it was probably 17. And I remember I went to the store and I bought grape juice.
Yeah.
And I had put it on my windowsill for some reason. It was like sitting, I think my windowsill was like right behind my computer, and me being a lazy teenager just plopped it on my windowsill. And it stayed there for a while, and I thought nothing of it. And then one day, I think this was like 2 or 3 days later or something like that, maybe even a week or whatever. But anyways, I came over and I finally opened it up and started drinking it, and it was like, oh, this is wine. I just kept drinking it. It tasted terrible.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
It was
It
wine. Turned into wine, and so that was when I learned that you could do that.
Yeah, it's speaking about like the laws and stuff a bit more. So I told you like, so I was born in Germany, where you can drink alcohol, you can drink beer and wine from 16.
Yeah.
All the other stuff is from 18.
Yeah.
But people don't really care. Like a lot of times when you go to a beer garden and you go to a bar or something, the kids will like get the drinks for the adults.
So that's another thing. Is like you'll see kids walking around. I mean, they're not gonna be walking around with beer, but they'll be carrying beer from. Like you don't really see it so much in Tokyo, but I think if you go out kind of the countryside, you send your kid off on a beer run.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And you can't do that in the States.
No.
Like I remember my parents would be like, when I was younger, like, oh, do you want a taste of this?
Yeah.
And I would taste it, whatever. And then I remember we moved to the United States, and about a month later, we went to a bar, and I was like, hey, Dad, can I taste that? He's like, no. Why? So we're in America. So what? The laws are different.
Yeah.
I can't taste. Why can't I do that in Germany? Because in America, they care a lot more. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really... like those laws are really different, What I don't understand though is like you can like serve in the army before you can drink.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wait, did you join the Marines before you were 21?
Yes.
Yeah, so
I joined, I was I just shy of turning 19. I was still 18.
So then what's the alcohol situation there?
You can't drink.
You just not okay. Okay, I was just wondering, like maybe people like
it's okay to shoot people, but God forbid you touch that beer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah,
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, but I think also like so even in America, because America's a really like big country, so even regionally, I feel like the beer culture is a little bit different.
Yeah, I would say so. Okay, like what's beer culture like on the East Coast?
Well, yeah, so like I would say it's a lot of people drink a lot more of like lager beer and stuff like that. I mean, now of course there's a lot of craft beers, but craft beers really started kind of on the left coast, a bit.
Left coast.
Sorry, the West Coast. Then no, but so because I remember like the first big craft brewery in the Boston area was Sam Adams.
Yeah.
Which is now the largest one.
Yeah.
But even that's pretty tame, you know? A
Yeah.
lot of people like they get Bud Light, they get Coors Light. I feel like
Yeah.
everyone drinks light beer. Like when you go to
Yeah.
a bar, everyone gets light beer. I never ever saw my parents order non-light beer.
Really?
It was so weird
Oh, that's
because
interesting.
I asked my mom like why. She's like, it's cold. I'm like, yeah, why don't you just get cold seltzer water? You
Yeah.
know? It's just but yeah, it's just
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you go on the West Coast, I mean, 100% the most common beer you're going to see is an IPA.
yeah.
Like, it's not even close.
Yeah.
Like, every single place you will visit from the tip of Washington all the way down to Mexico
Yeah.
is just IPA. I
IPAs.
do not know why.
Do you like IPAs?
I'm impartial to them.
Yeah.
I don't hate them.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is that I'm just tired of them.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said, it's like, you know, you'll have whatever, it'll be like apple IPA, lemon IPA. It's like all these like fusion IPAs that you'll see over, and I mean they're not bad, but it's just like, I don't know, they get a little bit boring after a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like huge on the West Coast for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, everyone does IPAs. I mean, now so
Yeah.
like now in the Boston area, there's a decent amount of like craft breweries, and most of them do IPAs and stuff. But what's interesting for me is like, you know, I was born in Germany, lager country, right? And that's what I grew up on. And Natsumi really likes ales and pale ales, not as like bitter as IPAs, like India Pale Ale, but she likes regular pale ales, and I like pale ales too. But she likes it because there's a little bit of a bitter taste, but then there's also a bit of like fruitiness to it, which you don't have with lagers.
Yeah,
you know?
lagers are very like whole beer kind of vibe.
Dude, I just that's my game. Like
the game.
if I wanna drink fruity stuff, I'll drink a fruit drink.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm quite partial to black beers.
Stouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if then England,
Yeah.
UK, whatever.
Yeah,
Guinness.
I like those. I actually learned though, I think I talked about this before, that Guinness isn't a black beer. It's a red beer.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Isn't that crazy? So
Really?
if you hold it up to a light, it's red.
I always thought it was a stout all these years.
Yeah, I thought so too. I believe it does say Guinness Stout if I'm not mistaken, but
Wow.
it's not a stout. It's a red.
Yeah. Speaking of that, when you mentioned that, why do you like Guinness beer so much?
Oh, okay. We're gonna get. Oh, actually, you know what? That's a good transition in that, because we wanted to talk about head.
Yeah, right. A head means
A head means the little foamy part.
yeah.
Yeah. So Guinness for me, I'll tell you the three things I like about Guinness. First of all, I like the consistency of Guinness. It's a very creamy beer.
It is.
It's super good.
Yeah.
The second thing I like about it is I don't get sick off Guinness. Like I don't really drink that much these days when I go out drinking, but I mean back in the day when I was like a younger lad, I could drink like 10 Guinness beers, no problem.
Wow.
You know, if I drank like 10 Bud Lights, I'd be like puking in a flower pot or something.
Yeah.
That's a reference to some of my family members. Me and my brother had a very shared experience in Kirkland, just throwing up in a potted plant.
Yeah, you
together.
You should share that story later.
There's nothing else to share.
Okay.
It's just
you got drunk.
We got drunk and we're like walking back in downtown Kirkland, and just both of us just. I think my brother threw up first, and then seeing him throwing up. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, it's like Guinness is very easy to drink. It's very creamy. And then the last part is the head tastes really good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it feels like you're having like a root beer float for a beer.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. It's very thick and creamy.
Yeah.
Which is funny because, you know, like one thing that really surprised me, because, you know, in Germany, when you pull a lager and you get it in those steins, those like big 1 liter things, they have like the top section is really just like one pane of glass, so that that's where you measure the head and everything.
Yeah.
But like in Japan, they take everything to a whole new level. Like, have you seen that machine that will like cause your beer, like you have like a little machine that you put on your can that vibrates?
Dude,
it
is so weird. I don't know how it works. Like I know how it works, but it still breaks my brain when I see it. You just put it here and it goes like that. Yeah. It's so weird to see.
Yeah, and it's like there's this huge like fascination or fixation on the foam.
Yeah.
Like you got to get that right to the point where like you know, in Japan, when you're getting a draft beer, they'll like pull down the lever this way for the beer, and then they fill it up, and then they put it the other way to get just the foam, right? Have you seen that in the States? Yeah.
No, they just do the tilt method.
Yeah, just do the tilt method. I mean, of course, it gets a lot more fine and dense, but still, like, this tilt method, man.
Just tilt it.
Like, why do you think there's such a huge fascination of that here?
Well, I think it just fits Japan really well. It's like Japan's all about presentation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true. It's like a beer wouldn't look right without some head.
Yeah,
right?
it's like a beer with a nice head to it. Just it looks very appealing.
Have you ever been to the Ebisu Museum in Ebisu?
I have not. I've been outside of it.
Okay.
But I haven't. I've never.
If you go on a tour, at the very end, the tour guide will teach you how to pour the perfect Ebis.
Okay.
And like I remember looking at this because it took like 3 minutes to pour.
Yeah.
But it was just like pouring it was from a can, right? It's just pouring it, and then the final like minute was just like slowly adding to make the head
I can't
perfect.
Be fucked with that.
But I just remember she was sitting there just like,
dude, you lost me as soon as the final minute. I was like, just pour the damn beer, lady.
I was like, come on, I want to drink this. What's going on? Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, man. So was there anything else that came to your mind talking about
I think
beer?
we pretty much hit it.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was good. I'll talk to you next time. What were we talking about?
Pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah.